everyone.
I would hope there's boys and girls listening. Oh, you sent me that on Facebook, didn't you?
I think so. Hey, boys and girls, it's Chris. I'm a real estate. Hello. It's such a habit, man. It's Chris. I'm a real estate guy, but hey, it's the Chris and Mike show. It's the podcast guy.
He is the real estate guy, so if you need a house in Arizona,
right?
You're looking at the guy you call.
There you go. Whether you're ready to sell or buy, you call the real estate guy. 602-321-6188. And yes, it's trademarked.
Happy customer right here.
He was a happy customer. Of course, he had to use me because I was in his band, so, you know.
But you did an awesome job, so
thank
it
you.
was a win-win.
Right, so I had this first-time buyers. They've been renting for 17 years, okay? 17 years. Imagine that. Went out, got them approved, everything's, lenders saving like 13 grand in costs, go out, money look, 6 houses at like 3, narrow it down to 1. Today they decide, which I don't, there's no way to overcome this objection. Well, we're just going to wait another year. We want to save some more money. So I looked up the guy's house that we liked, right? And I tried to find similar homes from the same builder, same square footage. The house that they liked was under $400,000. The next one similar to it was $659,000, and they just went up from there. In all of Phoenix, the entire city of Phoenix, this one house met their sweet spot, and they just can't wrap it around their heads that they're doing themselves a disservice, because by the time next year comes around, rates will not be what they are, because rates are never going back down to 2 and 3%. For those of you who think they are, you're delusional. The owners of this house, because we were talking about equity and things like that, the owners of this house.
What is a 30-year mortgage right now? Sorry.
Well, for these guys, they got 6.25%, which is a good rate. Our first rate was 8.375, and we were happy. So this guy's concerned, I need to save 20%. Okay, well, you don't have a job that enables you to save 20% over another year, because that's $77,800 based on the purchase price of this house. So I looked at the history of the home. They bought it in 2018 for $189,000. They're selling it now for $389,000. So they're basically making $200,000, minus all the nonsense. But that essentially breaks down to having realized $25,000 annual in equity for 7 years. A little bit more than $25,000, because, 25,000 times 4 years is $100,000, and there is 7 years in it. So you have the fact that it's listed $27,000 below market value. You have the fact that he's going to, if all things stay the same, going to appreciate over the next 24 months $50,000. Okay, so there's your 20%. There's your PMI that goes away, and he can't wrap his head around it. And it's hard to overcome that objective without coming across as a dick, because I don't want to come across as a dick, because I do nothing but educate first-time homebuyers. But if I had
to back up what you're saying,
right.
I made it a point to work all the overtime I could when I first got my job.
Yeah.
To make a lump sum payment just to get it to 20% so that I could get rid of my PMI. I agree with you. You're lighting that money on fire, because you're protecting the bank. You're not protecting yourself. You're paying their insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what's hard to overcome with that, I'm not paying the bills. I'm not living their lifestyle.
True.
I've had conversations with first-time home buyers. So, the payment's too high. I said, okay, well, let's talk about your budget. How much do you spend a month or a week on going out to eat? Well, I eat out 5 days a week. Okay, well, stop that. Why? I don't want to. That's how I feed my kids. Wait. You mean you go out 5 times a week with your 3 kids
and your kids?
With your 3 kids. This person.
God.
She's like, yeah. So where do you go? Oh, places like the Cheesecake Factory, Bennigan's.
You're talking
Applebee's,
of
chili, right? We broke it down.
Over $100 each time.
Oh, we broke it down, and this was years ago, and we broke it down. She was spending about $2,000 a month just on eating out.
Holy shit!
She chose that instead of buying a house.
Yeah, you got to make sacrifices. I agree with you.
Right. So, and it's a super nice couple. They're really cool people, but it's kind of like it's like, dude, this opportunity is not going to be available for you in a year. It's just not. Rates are going to change. I don't care how much money. You're not saving up $77,000 in 2 years of renting a house. You're just not.
No.
And he's been renting for 17 years. It's that whole adage, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And I was just like, oh. And then the funny thing is, because I, as a realtor, whenever I do anything, whenever I talk to somebody, I ask them qualifying questions. Are you in a lease? When's your lease up? What's your time frame? You know, if we find the right house, are you ready to jump? Oh, I can break my lease. It's not a big deal. Okay, cool. Right? Ooh, zoomed in. All that was for naught. All that was a wasted day. I mean, it was cool because I got to meet them. They were a little exploratory, but, you know, it was a wasted day.
Because at the end, they just weren't willing to make the sacrifice.
No, but in the initial conversations, they were ready because I have those conversations. Because I'll have people that say, "Oh, I'm locked in a lease for another year. I'm not ready." Okay, cool. Let's
Call
set
me
you
when
up.
you are.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to you once a month. I'll set you up on a search so you can be apprised of what the market's doing. You know, and every month I'll just send you a quick, "Hey, how's it going?" Hello message. And then when we're about 9 months or 3 months out, then we'll revisit with the lender. We'll make sure everything's still the same. We'll hit the ball running. But don't tell me, don't answer all my questions and create the innuendo that you're ready to do this.
So just to
Yes.
put this into perspective for the people who are listening, and I love this kind of stuff. That's how I know what PMI is. I mean,
Right.
you got to know where your money's going. So you have to do
Agreed.
a little bit of legwork or know somebody like you and say, "Hey, man, you know, what is this?"
Right.
My question is to put this into perspective for the people who are listening.
Okay.
From fall to the spring, what has been the change in the housing market?
When you start, quarter one is the sweet spot. Like everybody starts turning around, putting things on the market mid-January, close to February. Then the market kind of goes nuts around about this time of year. It stays crazy. February, March, April, May. It's a nice moving market. June it starts slowing down. July it dead stops because nobody wants to move in September, August, or
Right
September.
before school year.
Right. September, the end of September kind of starts creeping back up. October, we have a little blast of business. It kind of carries a little bit into November, but not so much because by the time middle of November comes, you're gearing up for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So the market kind of slows down and gets quiet. Personally, in my 25 years, any home buyers I have, if we're in that fourth quarter, I'm like, now is the time to buy. I can get you a better deal now in this final quarter of the year than I can in the first or second quarter all day long, because whoever's on the market in the fourth quarter, they have to sell their house. You have people that have to sell their house, and you have people that want to sell their house because they want to buy something bigger, they want to buy something smaller, but it's not like I have to sell my house or I'm fucked, right?
Sure.
It's I have to sell my house because I'm relocating, or I'm getting divorced, or little Johnny got a scholarship to Colorado University. We're up and we're moving. We're going to Colorado to be close to him. All those things that make you have to move in the fourth quarter equate to a smoking deal for a buyer who's looking for a smoking deal because the seller has to sell. Now, everybody's selling for a reason, right? But not everybody has to sell. Like I said, if you just decide, hey, you wake up one day, I'm tired. Like I could wake up tomorrow and say, I'm tired of living on an acre. I'm tired of mowing the lawn and spending 10 hours a week doing yard work. I'm just done.
Sure.
We're going to move. So I put on the market full market value because I don't have to move, but I want to move. And I want to see if it's possible to move based on the equity I make and where I want to go.
And if all of a sudden you did that and a week later you had a bidding war, you're like, well,
Right.
okay, we're moving.
Right. And that's all the signals pointing towards, yes, it's time to move.
Sure.
Those that, and you can tell by the market time, like the house that these guys liked was on the market over 200 days. There was a month where they took it off the market because they didn't want showings. But 200 days caused these people to drop the price from 410 to 389. I'm like, dude, this, like legit. The difference in their rent and the mortgage is $1,800 to $2,400. Knowing the bulk of that's PMI, but also knowing that my lender, Tom, anytime after he closes, if that rate improves to the point he knows it will save his clients money or bump their equity up and get rid of the PMI if they're FHA, he refinances them for free. Like he doesn't charge you anything. He saves you $13,000 off the start. And then
the other thing that you said that was important in there that people need to take into account is a bulk of that is PMI. So you would be closer to what you're paying in rent if you could have a 20% down payment.
Right. But most people most first-time home buyers, and they have good jobs where they work. It's a good company.
I didn't have 20%. You know that,
right? Well,
you
no,
had,
but
you had
but
to make a miracle happen when they were just giving the money. They were giving money to people that didn't deserve it back then.
Right. Well, and like even us, I always have to have a reserve to be comfortable because what I do for a living. Because what I do for, like, case in point, what I did all day. Well, it started while I was on vacation. They reached out to me. Got back from vacation, had 2 or 3 conversations with them, then had the big conversation with them, giving all the information that I need and verifying everything is true and accurate, verifying that we're ready to make a move. All day, back and forth Sunday text messages, and it wasn't anything crazy, but it was, have conversations and agreed, okay, let's set this up, hooked them up with my lender, Tom, took care of all that. So, I mean, Tom and I invested time and effort into this couple. So I set up all the showings, and it's in Levine. I'm in Queen Creek. It's an hour drive. I don't complain about driving because this is what I do, but it's still an hour drive. Show them all 6 houses. Not cheap. No. Show them all the houses, answer all the questions, educate from every single house to the next house, to the next house, to the next house. I just don't open a door. Like people think realtors, we just open doors. I don't open a door. Okay.
Check it out. I'll be out here if you need me.
Right. Yeah. Now, COVID, that was an accurate statement because COVID, I was essential, but to avoid contact, I'd get there 15 minutes early. I'd go through, open up the house with the gloves and the booties, and I'd go sit in my truck. The client would pull up. I'd get out of my truck. They'd be on the driveway. I'd be on the street. Or
were those the rules at the time?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So I would be far enough away from them. It'd be like me talking across a regular street, right? Like if you have a neighbor across the street and you're having a conversation with sidewalk, sure. That type of thing. So go ahead, walk through the house. Booties are there. Gloves are there. I'll be right here when you come out. If you have any questions, we'll talk. So they'd walk through the house. They'd come back out. That's
crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they'd come back out. Well, it was for everybody's safety, right?
Sure.
They'd come back out, whatever questions, answer the questions, and off to the next house. Same concept. I get there. They stay in their vehicle, unlock the door, booties, gloves, lights on, da-da-da-da, come back out. Go ahead. I sit in my air-conditioned truck. They do their thing. They come back out. Chat, chat, chat. This is weird.
Well, let's rephrase that. We thought it was for everybody's safety, but
right.
Come to find out all of it was bullshit. So.
Yeah.
Not the virus.
Yeah. No.
Just the way they said that you had to be 6. It fucking spreads like the common cold. Being 6 foot away from somebody is not going to mean shit.
No. In fact, when we got
the virus and you touch your mouth or your nose or your eyes, you're fucked. That's just how it starts.
Well, it's kind of like when we got back from the cruise. We're still in the Facebook page of that. I ended up getting pink eye.
No.
Somebody, because, here's the thing. The first cruise we did, every single entrance into any area where there was food, there were staff there. They're from the Philippines. And they're funny. Washi, and they'd have these little squirt bottles. Washi. Like legit, that's what they would say. But they're forcing you to wash your hands. Now, Nikki and I, being the humans that we are, we always wash our hands because we wash our hands. But on this cruise, there was only one spot that they had that. Everything else, they never even brought it up. It was strange, man. So at some point in time, doing something, and it could have been New Orleans, who knows? Because you don't realize when you touch your eye. Like, you just don't realize it. It's one of those things like if you have an itch, like, oh, I just touched my eye, but you don't realize you touched your eye, and then 3 days later you got pink eye. So the only other times I've ever gotten pink eye is from working out, being in the gym, and people, have it and don't clean up after themselves. So
I'm not even going to say that. Yeah, I'm not going to say it.
Okay. But yeah, so
that's one thing, thankfully, I've never had. There's wood right here.
Knock on wood. Yeah, because you just gave it a voice, man. Well, and see, the weird thing with contacts, it's kind of like, then
I wear them every day too.
I know. Mine, it destroys the contact though. Because it's got pink eye. It's an infection.
Oh yeah, I thought you meant it just like disintegrated it, like superhero kind of.
Nope, not superhero.
I pictured it just disintegrating in your eye.
Right.
Yeah, you got to throw it away for sure.
Yeah. So,
thankfully, we got disposable contacts nowadays.
We do, absolutely. So back to the whole real estate story, boys and girls. Be mindful of the person that you're working with. This is what they do for a living, and we don't get paid until you close.
But you know what I heard in your story?
What's that?
And you know this because you've been doing it for so long, but just to give you a positive affirmation.
Yeah.
you know who those people are going to call if they want to buy a house. And that's because of how you deal with it. I'm sure you've seen the flip side where realtors don't have your attitude and they let it get them down, or they show that in front of the client where they're upset, that they wasted their time. And the fact that you have such a positive attitude about it, that's why people call you. Even, you've said it 3-5 years later, 8 years later.
Yep.
Oh, hey, I remember you.
Yeah. But so that's, the whole point of this, because I'm not mad at them. It is what it is. Again, I'm not the one and I've always had that approach. Like, I don't care what you spend. Like, when he first came to me, he said, I can be approved for $500,000, but I want to spend $4. I'm fine. I don't care. I don't care what you spend.
Right.
My job's to find you the perfect fit, which I did. But then when he started going over his numbers, I started helping him kind of with budget and things like that. And at the end of the day, I'm not paying his bills. So I can't force anybody to do anything. I can just educate, but it sucks because I know the market and I know the values will increase, and the catch is, as the value goes up, the houses that will end up being in his price range are going to be smaller. So right now is a 2,320 square foot, 2-story house with a loft that basically covers half of the entire footprint of the house. Is a D.R. Horton home. And when they built them as an option of 7 bedrooms. Well, 2 of those bedrooms, right? 2 of those bedrooms would have been upstairs, in this loft. This loft, I kid you not, Mike. This loft is big enough. On one side, you could have a pool table, dartboard area, bar stools, a legit home bar. On the other side, you could have, 2 couches, a love seat, a big screen TV, coffee table, and a chase lounge. I mean, it's fucking huge.
That's awesome.
Right. So it's like, and the price is fantastic. It's like legit. It's well below where he wanted to spend. It's just one of those things that you just.
What's that go for right now?
$389 right now. And again,
that's not bad at all.
The next house.
For what you're getting.
The next house that is at least 2,000 square feet from that same builder is listed at $659. Granted, that's a new home, but that gives you an idea.
Right.
$389. There's 19 houses in Phoenix that are 2,000 square feet by this builder. That's it.
Wow.
One's $389. Everything else starts at $659 and higher.
19 houses in all of Phoenix?
By this builder with at least 2,000 square feet. Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
But that's still not many for those specifications.
That I should add that are FHA okay. So for those you don't understand, FHA is a first-time home buyer financing program. Your rate's going to be a little bit higher because you're only putting 3.5% down. So not everybody wants to play with FHA, just like not everybody wants to play with VA. VA's for veterans. The reason why people don't like playing with the veterans is they have this assumption they have to pay all these costs for the vet. Not true. A lot of people don't like FHA because they think you have to pay all these costs for the buyer. That's true, but when I make offers for FHA buyers, I go on a list price and ask for the $7,000 because that's the sweet spot that Tom likes. He uses that to buy down the rate. So that's the other thing. He uses that to buy down the rate.
I think.
Yeah, I did because I've been doing it forever. I mean, my niche in my entire career has been first-time home buyers. So COVID killed me because I love first-time home buyers, but first-time home buyers are typically $300,000 or less. So I would do 60 deals a year, $300,000 or less, all day long, because I loved educating first timers.
When COVID hit,
prices went up.
Prices went up,
which is fucking stupid.
But did you have people? I'm trying to think how I want to ask this question.
Okay.
Did you have people that were only moving predominantly because they had to during that time?
No, you still had the same. You still had the same mindset. You're moving because you have to. You're moving for whatever reason you're moving. You're relocating. You're upsizing. You're downsizing.
So the volume really didn't change. It was just the conditions.
My volume changed when COVID hit. I only did 19 deals that year, but because the price points just like all of a sudden overnight were $200,000-$300,000 more, which was just insane.
Sure.
I did the same. Mathematically, from an income standpoint, it looked as though I sold 40 houses. I only sold 19, which is, okay, working half as much and making the same money. I'm all for that, but I would rather work with 50 first-time home buyers spending $400,000 or less than doing 20 deals a year, because I like the busyness. I like educating. I like talking to people, going out there and doing things. And that's what COVID did, man. It just took the first time buyers away. It sucked. It literally wiped them out. So
that was the difference when that hit was you lost pretty much all your first time home buyers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's been sporadic since. It's maybe 6 or 7 cents because wrong pipe.
I hate
because the price point it's just changed. So you should remember enough about Arizona. So if I want something that's $300,000 or less, we're going to Florence, we're going to Coolidge, we're going to Copa, right?
Sure.
We're going to Santan Valley. Well, people don't like to drive, and it's kind of like, well, the whole, you're going to build wealth. Like this couple, 17 years. It just blows my mind. Now, granted, he had a job where he kind of moved locations in the city, but 17 years paying rent. Like, let's just throw this out there because this is interesting to me now. Because now we're on this tangent.
I'm curious as well.
No,
because it'll give people an idea that say, oh, like you said, well, I'll save up while I'm renting, which hardly ever happens. But it also tells you how much money you were giving to the people who own the building you're living in.
Right. So we're gonna say $1,500 because that's a fair assumption of if and on average, because right now, like, he's paying $1,800 now, but there's other things you could be spending $2,000 on. You know what I mean? So we're gonna say you pay $1,500 a month in rent for 12 months. That's $18,000 a year times 17 years, $306,000.
Damn.
That is basically, what is that?
Damn.
$74,000, $84,000 less than the house they could buy right now. So in 17 years, that 300 now, and
it would be like 70% paid for in those 17 years.
Yeah.
So now you have all that equity.
Yep.
That's one thing that I look at all the time that probably people should pay more attention to, just to give you a little boost of confidence that, you're doing better than you thought, because each month you're buying into yourself, right?
Well, it's building wealth. It's how you build wealth. You don't, you have the stock market. I haven't looked at my shit since Trump took office because who knows what the fuck that's doing.
It did really well for a very short time. And now just don't look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Tesla, I heard rebounded though. Tesla, somebody picked up, I saw something last night where somebody grabbed Tesla at like 240 and then, went up 25 cents. So
very quickly, because I don't want to go into this.
Yeah.
But this has been the biggest wake up call to me at how the rich get richer as they manipulate the stock market like a motherfucker right now.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right in front of our eyes. We can talk about that later, but we're on to something else. So.
That's a good point. So the point being, circling back and wrapping up the whole real estate vibe of it, is realtors don't get paid until you close. So whereas my colleague here, Mike, gets paid every 2 weeks, I don't. I can go 3 months without a paycheck. So be respectful of the fact that when you agree to work with somebody, have the mindset that you're ready to work with them and you're actually ready to go out there and pull the trigger. And if you find something you like, you move forward and you get the process started. Because
so let me ask you this.
Yes.
For those who are not only going to be real estate agents that might be listening to this in the future, or just anyone that wants to build their own business on their own, how did you go about setting yourself up so that you didn't have to panic every time you weren't selling a house, like financially?
Well, I have
simple tricks.
Yeah. It reserves. Just, we live on a budget. It's just reserves. I have 6 months of reserves because the likelihood
you paid yourself first though, right? When you started out, even if it was $10 or $20 or,
well, I've always,
you got to start somewhere.
I've never quote unquote paid myself. I pay the bills and then we look at something like we're putting in a sidewalk and a patio on the back of the house. Fucking contractors, man, don't get me started, motherfuckers.
I think I could rephrase that to say that you just didn't spend everything you made.
Yes.
Every time. Okay.
Correct. No,
it was found places for what was left over. A lot of people, they just spend everything and maybe into next paycheck.
Yeah.
So
no.
I don't do that either.
Yeah.
You and I have the same approach. I pay all my bills and whatever's left over goes wherever it goes.
Yeah, like
But
I
it
haven't.
doesn't just buy shit every time.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. No, the last deal I closed was a month ago. Like I have not sold a single house. So anything I sell now is 30, 45 days out. So these guys, they were going to be a May 10th close because then they don't have a payment in June. Their first payment comes in July. And then August, September will be the last 2 months renting. So really it kind of just baffles my mind that they can't see past August. Like they're so focused on what our rent's going to increase to. This house is going to be long gone. The rates will probably be 1% higher. And then, again, the houses, the values continue to rise. Like I said, on this house, prime example.
Is that the way things are going though? The interest rates are going up again?
They just up and down, man. I stay out of the interest rate game because people tend to listen to what I say and it gets me in trouble. So anybody asks about rates, I'm like, talk to Tom. I know what the rate is because Tom tells me once he approves somebody, here's what they're approved for. This is their rate. This is what I need you to do when you write the offer. Okay, cool. So
I'm always just asking you as someone who is in it every day and you see, I don't pay attention because I'm not going anywhere because my rate is way less than half of what you just mentioned. So
ours is like 3.1, 3.1.
Yeah, mine's closer to 4, but it's high threes if I remember right. 3.83, 3.88, something like that.
Yeah, but still, and that's the thing. And I mean, people think, and that's the other problem you have. Well, it's not really a problem, but that's the other caveat right now in the real estate world. You have people that have 2, 3, and 4% interest rates. So even if their house is a little too small or a little too big or their yard's a little too whatever, it's like, do I really move when I have a rate this small? Right?
Because as well as I do, I've lived here long enough that I've flipped myself around where I owe less than what my equity is by a landslide.
Right.
I could move up, but I don't want to because I don't want to pay that other 3% interest that I know is like a PMI to somebody, that's going to be the equivalent of the payment. And I just don't want to do that.
Yeah. Like say when we moved from our other house to this house, the equity we had, I put down what was the equivalent of what we were still owed on that house. So that makes sense.
Yes.
So the payment really didn't change.
Correct.
Because the rate was pretty much the same. We just got
makes total sense.
Right. Yeah. So,
which is smart. That's the way you do it, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
When you're going to move up,
Yeah.
We maintain or get better. We don't keep digging ourselves deeper into debt.
No.
And that seems, when you talk about the American dream, that these days, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I used to listen to this financial guy, and he said he would go into these classrooms and he would ask, 4th, 5th graders, 3rd graders. He didn't mess with the older kids much because they should know by now, but he said I would hold up 2 pictures. One picture would be a guy with like a Corvette and a big brick house behind him that, probably had 15 bedrooms and a swimming pool. And he said, and then I would hold up a picture and it would have a guy that drove a Honda and lived in a nice ranch style house. And he says, it wasn't junk. It was nice, but it wasn't like the other guy. And he would say, now class, which one is the millionaire?
Yeah.
And obviously they would all be like, the dude's got all the shit, man. Nope. It's the guy that drives the Honda. And I can't tell Chris Rock's joke, but when they would ask him why he was still driving his Honda Civic or whatever the fuck he was driving at the time, he had a great comeback, but it was basically he was the N-word with the other $250,000 in his pocket.
The one thing, I know a guy, okay, and there's a book called The Millionaire Next Door, okay? So if you've never read that book, it's a good read.
I see it advertised all the time. I need to read it.
Okay, so this guy, it's kind of his I'm not going to drop his name because I don't know how much he wants. We'll call him Miles because I'm staring at Miles Kennedy right now on my wall with the Alter Bridge. So we'll say Miles.
Okay.
So Miles lived in the first neighborhood Nikki and I lived in, and I came across Miles because I brought a buyer to his house. It was for sale. Ironically, Miles moved to Chandler, which was the second neighborhood we lived in. We unintentionally followed Miles to the neighborhood to where legit he was 3 doors down. So the first weekend in the neighborhood, because it was one of those neighborhoods from corner to cul-de-sac where it's king of the hill. It legit was king of the hill. Everybody was in their driveways. The parents were sitting on chairs drinking beers. Kids were riding bikes up. And there was 48 kids from corner to cul-de-sac. We were in the cul-de-sac.
That's awesome.
So when you turn the corner to our cul-de-sac, 48 kids. I'm not kidding. It was fucking awesome. It was one of those cool places to have that sweet spot where all the kids were within 2 or 3 years of age. There were some that a little bit older, some that a little bit younger, but it was cool. It was a cool time in everybody's life. So I don't remember how it happened, but we're, kind of walking down the street, whatever. And he's like, hey dude, you sold my house over there. Now you're here. I'm like, really? I sold your house? So I looked it up. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. Right on. What up, dude? So we become good friends, right? Everybody on the street were friends. Because it was that tight of a thing. So the more I got to know Miles, the more I understood what he was doing for a living. He's in, this won't give it up. He's in the storage industry, right? He worked for U-Haul in Florida, came out here, opened a storage facility. You've seen him. Storage solutions everywhere. Yep. All over Arizona.
Oh yeah. I had a band that used to practice in one. If that tells people,
yes,
these are not just roll up fucking aluminum doors like you had in the old days. These are air conditioned, heated.
Yeah, we had Disturbed. The first place that Disturbed, the first
band I jammed with in Chicago had one too.
Yeah. First band ever, man. We were in a storage facility and nice. Of Storage Solutions on Hayden and McKellips over by the Big Safe. Yep. So I get to know him. He's driving this pickup truck that has nothing automated. Hand crank the windows. And this is like 2006, 7. Okay.
I worked at Guitar Center with a guy that had a beautiful fucking truck like that.
Yeah. And, probably 1990 truck. Nothing automatic, right?
His was old, like classic though.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
So nothing automatic. Dude shopped at Walmart, right? Like legit. His suits, he probably got one from Men's Warehouse, right? Okay. So the more I get to know him, the more I start realizing what he does for a living. Then I realize that he's the principal owner of this massive storage company. To the fact that when he went public, I was pissed because he didn't tell me. I'm like, motherfucker. Like, I mean, he couldn't tell me, but
Right.
He started a REIT with storage facilities. So he's legit. He's the millionaire next door. He crosses, you check every box.
But you would never know it because
that you would never know.
Live that way.
No, what he drives, how he dresses. They barely went out to eat. His kids went to public school. His son ended up driving his beat up truck when he was able to drive. So Miles got a new vehicle. Wife stayed home.
I think you know me well enough. That would be me. Only the dead giveaway would be I would have this fucking studio that would everybody would start drooling, Right. That would be my problem is I would have a beautiful music room.
Well, but that's the thing though. He lives a very comfortable life, His wife stayed home while the kids were in school, like didn't work a day in her life, and then once the kids kind of got off on their own, she went and got a side gig, which she did for years, but it was more just for her to have something on her own. But legit, Miles he's the walking epitome of the millionaire next door. Like if you saw him walking down the street, you'd have no idea. No idea. Awesome. Really cool guy, laid back, chill. It's one of those things that's like, holy shit, man. It's just, you didn't know it. And I never actually called him out on it because when I read the book, I'm like, holy shit, I'm reading the book. I'm like, holy shit, this is Miles, man.
Those are my favorite kind of people to meet, though, are people who have beat the game and remained themselves.
Yeah.
And probably not only remained themselves, but became the best version of themselves because they no longer had to worry about money, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So now they just get to be whoever they want to be. That was my whole dream with playing music. It wasn't, you get the typical, oh, did you go on checks? Like, that's not why I got into it. I mean,
right.
I liked the volume, I liked the show, but more importantly than that, I really wanted to see the world, number one, and I wanted financial freedom. Those were the two goals that I had as a musician. It definitely was not chicks.
No, it wasn't. But neither was I though. But I was married, so I had no one.
You guys were all married except me.
Yeah, I had
Rick,
I
Scott,
yeah,
you.
Yeah, but I don't know how much Rick and Scott would have picked from the forbidden fruit or not. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't.
Scott never wavered once.
Okay, good.
He wanted to, and
yeah.
he hated me because I never took advantage of it.
Oh, right on. Yeah, and Rick wasn't married the whole. I don't want to talk bad about Rick. Rick's a nice guy. He doesn't like. I don't. There's a disconnect because he doesn't respond anymore to stuff. So I think we just need to move on without Rick. I think Rick's still harboring ill feelings towards me for some reason. I don't know why.
Towards you?
Yeah, the first time I kind of reconnected with him, he kind of gave me a shot. Like, when I brought up Nemesis and that you and I were talking, trying.
Oh, is that when he told you left the band, dude?
Basically, he said, "You're a fucking dick. Leave me alone." For lack of better way to phrase it, that's the vibe. That's the vibe I got from him.
I got you.
He's just kind of like, "Yeah, fuck you, motherfucker," because he doesn't like. I'll engage in some of his stuff, and there's nothing engaging back, like at all. Like when we've
fucking 20 years ago, man.
People get, that's like Nikki says, people love me or hate me. There's no in between. It's either you love Chris or you fucking hate Chris. And
I wasn't happy you left. You know that.
Yeah.
But it was 20 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
I love you as a person.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Had we known more 20 years ago, and if we communicated more as a band.
But what have I said on this fucking podcast?
It doesn't matter.
You
I mean,
can't change what happened 10 seconds ago.
No.
But that was my whole. That's how I survived recovery.
Sure.
It sounds stupid, but I said I can't change what happened 10 seconds ago, but I can definitely change what happens 10 seconds from now. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then that became a minute, became 10 minutes, became an hour, became a month, became a year, and now I'm sitting here talking to all you guys. So. It's as simple as that, but you can't change the past is my point. And the time that we spent together that was positive versus that whatever happened at that time that, everybody should have talked about differently, but you can't change all that.
No, agreed.
That doesn't mean you haven't grown. If I had contacted you and you were like, "Hey man, I'm happy doing what I'm doing and, have a nice life."
Yeah.
I would have handled this differently, but when I contacted you to do a podcast, you were like, "Really? You want to do a podcast with me?" It was almost like, well, "Yeah,
fucking A, dude, let's go. Fucking A, dude, let's go."
So we're living examples of we buried the hatchet.
Yeah.
Whatever. And for you and I, that was not even really a hatchet. It was just breaking the ice, and moving forward. And we've moved forward. Just like it was just like we never, it was just like the next day. That was the phrase I was looking for.
No, but see, it's one of those, like, I don't regret very much in my life, but that's one of the things that I wish we would have handled differently. So the outcome would have, because we were going where we were going.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I didn't realize we were going where we were going, and I needed the break. And that's the thing, we're not going to hash over this, but that's one of those things. That's one of those things that when you get those, if you go back in time, what would you do? I'd go back in time and change that.
Yeah.
I would absolutely. That's the first thing that always comes to mind.
Absolutely.
I would absolutely go back in time and change that, because to me, knowing now what I didn't know then, we would have amounted to something. Whatever that would have been, we were already something. But we would have ended up being something on a grander
we
scale.
had the next level people that were there. Yeah.
Right. So there's not many things like,
and that's a good segue in what we're going into.
Right.
So we can talk about this all you want. I would say for people who don't understand what we're talking about, because you've obviously never been in a band, that's cool.
Sure.
There's no blueprint to forming a band, just like there's no blueprint to being a real estate agent. You have to figure those things out for yourself when you're going to be in business for yourself. So the first thing that obviously you have to have is competent musicians. Then you have to have good songs, great songs, hopefully Hall of Fame songs.
Yep.
Because you have to get people that have never heard what you're about to play interested in what you're going to play. That's the difference in being what people consider. A lot of people listening to this are like, oh, you were in a band, so you played other people's music. We see them on the weekends at Tim's Bar on 3rd Street.
Right.
No, we were going to actual places that you had to play original music. That was the whole point of the club, right?
Yes.
There was a whole scene in big cities where original talent was given the opportunity to be seen by record labels, A&R reps.
Yep.
That was the whole point of the club, to make money, obviously, sell booze. But it was a place that, the industry talent could come to and find you. And that's what happened to us. Chris just sent me a link to a New Times article, which is a huge to-do magazine now.
Right.
At the time that Chris and I were playing in Nemesis, the New Times was a rag that you picked up on the fucking street corner. But
you still do. You still do.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's still on the street corner. It still gets slammed.
That was the appeal.
Yeah. Carrie Lake called it on when she was still a news anchor. She legit on air said that she when she reads the New Times or something, I don't know what she said, but basically she said anybody who reads the New Times is just as dumb as the weed they smoke. On fucking air, dude.
She doesn't understand weed
10.
then.
No, but on Channel 10, she actually said
Doesn't
that.
make you
and John Hook looked at her like, "What did you just say?"
John Hook's still there.
Well, this was a while ago. I don't remember how long ago it was. I don't know. I don't watch the news anymore, man. I don't. I don't.
That's right.
But just to interject with your mason jar thing we're talking about in clubs and playing and stuff, you have to understand too. Back then, boys and girls, we had to sell tickets to it. We had to fill the venue ourselves. It wasn't just walking down the street, I'm going to pop into the mason jar. It wasn't like that. Mill Avenue had that, but a lot of these clubs that were specifically for original music, they weren't walkable.
Well, the first thing, on that path, after you form the band and you write the songs and you
rehearse your ass off for months and months and months, 5-6 days a week.
Yeah, we were all slave drivers.
No, but we were good because of that. But we were tight as fuck live, dude, because of that. There's nothing that I don't ever remember a time on stage that we fucked up to the point that the song wasn't recoverable, or the fact that the crowd had no idea. Even the people that have seen us many, many times, because we started getting those repeat people in the audience. We would fuck up. We would know we fucked up because we'd look at each other. Oh shit! Like I'd come in too early, I'd come in too late, or it was tempo was going too fast because Scott was amped up because everything's faster when you're live, and I'm like, what the fuck? I can't breathe here. But we knew it, but nobody else did, and that's how you measure how tight a band is. Because if we've talked about it before, Kenny Mellencamp's drummer Kenny, we were at that concert, and if you've never heard the story, Mellencamp's jamming a song, and the drummer Kenny lifts up his hand and hits his snare. When he hits the snare, it breaks his fucking snare. Okay,
the snare is an actual metal piece that's underneath the drum that he's hitting. For those that don't know, yes, and so they do break. He
broke it. So by the time he brought his hand back up, the drum tech swapped out the snare before his hand hit the snare again, perfectly in sync and tune, everything. That's being
a true
tight.
Story.
Right. That's how you measure how tight a band is. You did that without skipping a beat. Nobody in the fucking band knew that happened except Kenny and his drum tech. And those select people in the crowd that were musicians that purposely watched the musicians. I start with the singer. Mike starts with the guitar player. Then I start going over to the guitarist, and I'll look at the bass, and I'll look at the drummer, and then I'll start picking up different beats and shit people are doing, because that's what I do as a musician. I just don't stand there and revel. It sucks. I can't revel. I have to focus on each individual bandmate and watch what they're doing and pick shit up. I picked something up when we were on the cruise at Howl at the Moon, that band Howl at the Moon. One of the guys came out. This is totally off topic. Sorry. One of the guys came out. They're playing. Devil went down to Georgia, but he brings a guitar out. Okay. So you have two pianos and a drum kit. A guy busts out a guitar. It's too loud. Guitar is fucking too loud.
Nothing worse than a bad mix, right, Tony Palmer?
The main piano guy is on the drums now, and he's looking at the chick who sounded like Stevie Nicks. Okay. He can't hear. I see him. I catch him tell her like this.
The universal signal for I can't hear you.
Because the guitar is so fucking loud. So he's watching her. He's watching her on the piano. I'm watching his eyes look at her on the piano, and he's kind of like, okay. Yeah, okay.
There are times you got to do that for sure.
Just But that's how you measure how tight a band is.
Agreed. I agree.
So when you see bands like Metallica,
it's a very appropriate story.
And Queensryche in their day.
Oh, you want to talk about fucking tight? Stop right there.
Yeah.
I got to see Operation Mindcrime in 1988 in the 18th row.
Nice.
Of the Peoria Civic Center, which I don't know how much, 20,000 maybe.
Sure.
But I was fucking stunned at how tight that band was, because for those of you that don't know, that don't listen to Queensryche, their music is fairly complex for heavy metal.
Oh, yeah.
It just is. And one of the best singers you will ever hear, he's an operatic or opera trained singer. The guy just hits notes you can't believe.
Yep. Not anymore.
That drummer was just, he's a human metronome.
Scott Rockenfield.
Yep. Another appropriate musician name. Had the symbols on the chains. Just badass.
Yep. No, I saw the Building Empire. The first time I ever saw them was Building Empire's tour.
Another badass tour.
So the
Got
first
to see him
half
again then.
So the first half of that concert was Operation Mindcrime. The second half was Building Empires. Was the Empire album.
Okay.
It just and we were sitting stage left and just I
agree, dude.
Just fucking unbelievable.
But
yeah,
there's two things I want to say about you mentioned Metallica in there.
Yep.
To bring them to the forefront.
Yeah.
That's the tour that I saw. And this is how badass it was.
Okay.
Operation Mindcrime.
Yep.
Metallica was on their And Justice for All tour, and Queensryche was opening up for them.
Metallica
was cool enough, and for those of you that don't know, there's horror stories of headlining bands.
Sure.
And, we had a couple of them too, that would make unreasonable fucking demands on you. Like, you're going to do this, you're not going. It was mostly, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that.
Right.
Metallica let them set up their whole video production.
Yep.
Use their whole stage and let them play the entire Operation Mindcrime album before they came out. It was like a 3.5 hour fucking concert, because then Metallica came out and played for another 2 hours and 15 minutes.
There you go.
The point of that is Metallica blew Queensryche off the stage as good as they are.
Well, yeah.
They just did. That's how, to give people an idea of why they are a $1 billion band. It's because they have been working their fucking asses off since 1981, when that band was formed, through today.
Yeah.
And have never stopped doing anything except one focus on that word, Metallica. We are a band and we move forward.
Yep.
Unfucking believable at how good they are live. You were there with me. We witnessed it together. I saw them 11 times.
Yeah. And then, but seeing that's the thing. So, and then you have, we can go on and talk about tightness of bands, but it all starts in a garage. It all starts with, a dream. I want to do this. And how do I get there? And then you have to find like-minded people to do that. So back to our mason jar.
Moving on from that, you have to book your gigs, which is going in. Back then, this is 1993, 94, 95. Yeah. There was no internet to promote yourself on. There was no podcast. There was nothing.
Nope.
So Mike had to walk his happy ass in there and meet people and make face-to-face contacts. One of the best was... One of the first big clubs we got in was the Electric Ballroom, which obviously held a fuck ton of people.
It did.
But that turned out to be basically a drug and money laundering operation, which is why it eventually got shut down. Because when I went in there to get paid after the Marshall Tucker gig, I walked in and I was like, because there was just mounds of fucking cocaine on the table, and these guys are sitting there with their feet up, and they were both, you could tell,
mob.
No, they were more like fucking muscle and fitness dudes.
Oh, okay.
They're wearing a shirt that's 2 sizes too small, and it ended up, the ice got broken. They're like, "Can we help you?"
Yeah.
I was like waiting to get killed or something. Right. I said, "Yeah, I'm here to get paid for." We were Desperate Angel at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah. They got your money right here or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was one of the first introductions into the world of the music industry and rock and roll that I got.
Yeah.
Then the next one was Franco.
Yeah.
And he is obviously connected. His last name is Gagliano. He's from Sicily.
Yeah.
He wears clogs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But basically, this guy opened this club in 1979, and it closed in, I can't remember. You probably know better than I do.
I don't remember either.
The whole point of this article was it was the end of an era because the Mason jar was around. I didn't know this. It was around before he came around. He bought the business.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
And he turned that by the late 80s and early 90s, this guy had basically had every rock star through this club you could ever imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And we're talking names like Bon Jovi. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. John Bon Jovi was there. There's a picture of him and Franco together.
Yep. Pearl Jam, Tesla, Soundgarden, Aerosmith. I mean, because think about it.
The Gin Blossoms gave him their first gold record.
Yeah, because when the 80s ended, all the 80s bands, they still went on the road. They just no longer were filling State Farm Arena. They were filling the Mason jar. So all the 80s bands that can no longer fill the massive venues like they're back doing now because everything comes around, they were going through clubs like this. They were going through the Mason jar. They were playing there was an area on Mill Avenue between Chewy's and what the fuck? I forgot the other restaurant was across the street when it was open air where fucking everybody you would do like an Arizona circuit if you're a traveling band trying to become a band that's known by all.
Sure.
You'd hit the Mason jar, you hit some stuff in Tempe, you hit that open air stadium, then you'll go up to Flag and do shit there, whatever, but you're kind of bouncing around hitting all these different little spots because that's what you're doing. You're playing 20-minute sets just to get your legs out there and, I forget, I don't know.
Monday night at 11 o'clock.
Right. Like that's the thing. So Mason Jar's history, like the first time we played there, I was walking around before the show because the wall was just littered with photos, framed pictures.
And it talks about that in this article.
Oh,
explain what that was like.
Oh, it was amazing because you walk up to it and you're not thinking anything and then you look, oh shit. Well, that's Eddie Vedder. Oh, well, and you just start looking at all these people. Well, that's Chris Cornell and
Lane Staley.
That's Neil Young, and that's right. It's like all these fucking people that are held in such high regard in the music industry walk through his club at some point.
And these are all autographed photos with him, with these people that Chris was saying. This isn't Franco saying, I know these people, and he put a fucking picture on the wall. This is him with his arms around him.
Yeah.
And autographed to Franco. Thanks for the memories, whatever,
Right. Right.
That was awesome.
Yeah. It was. It was cool to see.
It's amazing people didn't steal the fucking pictures off the wall back then.
Well, and they were probably fucking like drill screwed in. But to me, the cool thing,
you're right, they probably were.
To me, the cool thing after looking at those pictures, and then we went up to do our first show there, and you're standing on the stage, it kind of hit me like fuck.
It hit me like a ton of bricks that first night too, man.
Like holy shit! Like how many other fucking major?
My legs started shaking.
Yeah, just, and it wasn't the crowd. It wasn't.
No, it was. I almost had not to interrupt you. It was almost that I had a I don't deserve to be here moment after I just saw what I saw with you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like who the fuck am I? Is what I was saying.
Yeah. But at the same time, when they did that, they were like, "Who the fuck am I?" Like,
right. You know what talked me out of it? I looked at you. Yeah. I'm like, I'm that guy's guitar player is what I am, and I better get my fucking shit together real quick because we're about to start.
Yeah. And that was, and so we always had nervous energy going on because if you don't have nervous energy going on stage, regardless of what you're doing,
you shouldn't be.
Regardless of what whether it's acting, whether it's music, whether it's comedy, if you're going on a stage in front of people. And you don't have that, you don't have that nervousness, adrenaline, then you don't know, you have no business being up there because you without that, you don't have that edge. You need that edge because you're bearing your soul, whatever you're doing in front of people.
I told you my horror story of the fucking guy that we didn't know had stage fright, which is how you ended up being in the band. Because this guy was our bass player and our singer, and you're like, oh my God, I fucking lost my bass player and my singer right before I went on stage because he's glassed out, you know?
Yeah,
can't have that. So it's important to know the difference for the people that are listening. You have people that actually have stage fright. Eddie Van Halen, believe it or not, had stage fright, which is why he had such a problem with alcohol. And that's public knowledge. He made it public knowledge.
Yeah, Jim
He's like,
Morrison.
I don't like being, Jim Morrison's another great example. Some people didn't like being the spotlight. They liked, just like I just described, I wanted to be financially independent and do what I loved all the time. Those were my two goals, right? I wasn't, fame isn't in there.
No.
Chicks aren't in there. Fast cars aren't in there. None of that shit interests me.
And I think that's why we worked so well as a band, because I didn't write like that. None of my stuff was about getting laid, getting drunk, and partying, because that's not what was relevant to me. That's not what.
And when you and I talked the first time, I told you that. It's like, I'm not looking. I want this band to, the songs to mean something. And then you lit up. You're like, oh fuck yeah, I can write songs that mean something. Because there's always that when you don't know somebody, and back then you actually had to go meet them, just like I had to go book the gigs. Right? You got to talk to somebody. That's why you and I both have social interaction skills to where we can sit here and talk to the world. We're not thinking that we're talking to 16 countries. It's you and me talking.
Yep.
So
it's natural.
There's that nervous energy when you were interviewing or auditioning someone. That's the word I was looking for. Is this guy into the same kind of thing I am? We already know that we're into rock and roll together because we met at a fucking Candlebox concert,
Right.
But can this guy write? And you're thinking, can this guy play? And you always have that.
You know what? To be honest with you, dude, I didn't go into that meeting with you and Scott, other than the fact that this is going to be fun. I'm going to jam with a couple guys and see where it leads. Because every time.
See, that's cool. I've never talked to you about what you felt like coming in there for the first time. We just did it.
I was nervous because you're always nervous, right?
Sure.
But I didn't go in there thinking, oh my God, if I don't get in this band, my life is over. But at the same time, I wasn't thinking, I'm not good enough for this band. I went in there just like, I know what I do. I know I do what I do better than anybody else, because nobody can do what I do because it's me. Right? I knew I wasn't the greatest singer in the world, but I knew
none of us were the greatest anything.
Right. But I knew I could write really good lyrics, because I was always praised for my lyric writing, and it started out as poetry, but so I just went in like, this is going to be cool and fun. And I remember Nikki and I talking about it, like I met this guy at a candle blah, 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 and it just, I'm going to go check it out and see what I don't remember if she was Candlebox with us or not, but I remember her and I talking about it, and the fact that I was going to go audition for the band, and she's like, okay.
I remember you, and you know what? That's funny you say it or describe it like it's a perfect description, because I remember the audition like it was yesterday, and it wasn't even an audition, because me and you and Scott met at a bar first, and we talked for long time.
Yeah.
And finally, Scott was like, fuck it, man. We've been here for like an hour and a half, and we're about 9 sheets to the wind. It's like, let's go jam. This guy's cool,
Yeah.
And I think that was more than anything was just we talked first, and we knew that we were all into the same thing, because we were talking about the Doors and Metallica and the Eagles and all the bands that had influenced us as players.
Right. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think that's what's missing in the world today on all levels is like the communication and the openness and talking to people, and just because everybody's so
it's
COVID.
It's funny you say that, because that's one thing that I wanted to bring up even on a later podcast, but commit this to memory, because I'm glad you bring that up. What has electronics done to our social interaction skills? And now you're going to say you got the COVID angle too, for sure.
Right. Because that's to me, that's when everything flipped. Like
it made it so much worse.
Yeah, social media was relevant and stuff with COVID, like all big time. But like Amazon wasn't huge until COVID. Zoom wasn't huge till COVID. What Zoom did is it took away the physical contact interaction. Yeah, you can have 20 people on a Zoom and everybody's sharing stories and shit, but you're not in the same room with them. You're not reading their body language. You're not seeing how they're sitting. You're not seeing if they're bouncing a leg. You're not seeing if they're fucking with their hand. Like, you can't tell if I'm doing this like this.
I can't see your facial expressions if I was like I was sitting across the desk from you.
Exactly. You can't.
Even now.
You can't. Right. You can't see, I'm bouncing my leg, I'm messing with my finger, but you can't see that. And those are things that you have.
I don't have any pants on.
Right. See, those are things you have, but those are things that you need.
Yes, I do. Just so everybody
to communicate with the world. There you go, Mike. Mike's got pants on, boys and girls. So that's what we're lacking. We're missing that. So that's kind of the disconnect with the world in general, is you don't have you don't have those intimate conversations. And by intimate, I don't mean intimacy. I mean intimate conversations where you're in a break room talking to somebody.
Even forming a fucking heavy metal band, like that was Scott's idea. I got to give him credit for it. He was like, because we had all the equipment at the house at his house for one.
Yeah.
You know, it was like we didn't want to just bring in fucking random strangers. But it's funny because sidebar. When we when we auditioned fucking bass players, it was like a cattle call. We probably had 30 of them come through there.
Yeah, it was.
So he wanted to, I think it was more just to break the ice and make sure that we liked you first, because I don't want to say that the bass player audition was any less important than your role, but it was less important.
Well, but that's because everybody goes.
You're the front man, right?
Right. Everybody goes to the front man.
And one thing that was a million % Scott and I were on board with is this is the first person everybody sees. Unless you're a fucking instrumental band,
right?
Who do you know in the band if you only know one person?
Exactly.
That person has to be pretty special.
Yep. Or just has absolutely no self-awareness whatsoever and is willing to go out there and just fucking rock his ass off because this is the coolest thing ever. Because really,
you treated it that way. You were smart enough to know exactly what the fuck you were doing, and a lot of it was off the cuff, but a good majority of it was calculated, and that's what it has to be, right?
Yeah.
You knew what you were doing.
Yeah. I did, but I didn't go in. I never approached it as my, because we talked about it before. I never had lead singer's disease.
No,
because I just didn't. I always just wanted to.
But jam. You acted like that outwardly to the crowd.
Oh yeah. Well, once the guitar,
I'm saying in the confidence.
Yes. Once
now I'm in charge.
Yeah. Once that first note was hit, then fucking Iron Dog took over. That was all it was, man. That was a whole different personality of me. I own. It was space.
Too,
this
ladies
is
and
mine.
Gentlemen. That's no fucking shit.
Yeah. This is my space. You're gonna get with me. You're gonna fuck off. And I would yell at people when they weren't singing back. I would fucking try to get them riled up. They weren't doing it. I'd fucking yell at them again. Like, let's go. You're here to fucking have fun. Let's have fun, motherfuckers. Let's go.
And that's exactly the way. And that it's crazy because he's not I wouldn't describe Chris as meek and mild, but he's the most.
Not at all.
I would call you just like me. I'm like a chameleon. I will adapt to whatever situation I need to adapt to.
Right.
To maintain the peace. To move on to whatever I want to do next that's more fun than what I'm doing right now. But I don't like to create a scene. No, exactly. When you got on stage, you created a fucking scene like there was no tomorrow. That was the alter ego, which is why he gave himself an alter ego, because if there was anybody who ever changed when they stepped on a stage, it was the guy I'm talking to right now.
I had to. You had to, because that the show lives and dies by the singer. If you don't like me, you're not gonna listen to anything else. If you don't like how I sound, and I can't control if you don't like how I sound, that is what it is. But you're not gonna open up to the rest of the band if I'm not doing what I had to do to make sure that you were engaged and you were listening and you were involved, and that was the fun for me. That was the high for me. It was just fucking getting people to engage and come back and all that stuff. That was the point of it.
Is somebody coming in your house?
Nikki just came in.
Dude, that is so crazy.
Why?
Those microphones are so good. I'm waiting for somebody to come in my back door.
Oh, no shit.
I'm not kidding you.
It picked up the door.
Dude, that freaked me out. That's like 3D sound.
Mike thought somebody's coming in his back door. When you open the door.
That's how good those microphones are.
That's crazy. Wow.
But I will say, of all the people I ever jammed with, man, the one thing that I can't agree with you more on is I never had more fun than I did during that time.
Oh, I agree. From a music standpoint, that was one of those. That was the moment in time. That's kind of like where we lived. We talked about how we lived on that street from corner to cul-de-sac. That was one of those moments where the time was our life. It was the time of Nemesis was the time of my life. It was just those little pockets. If you get one or two of those in your lifetime, you're winning. I've been blessed with like 5 or 6.
Me too.
And it's just
we're doing it
cool.
again.
Yeah. So this is 7, 8, whatever it is, whatever the count is. It's just one of those things that you don't realize it till afterwards, and then you look back. Oh fuck, that was such a great time.
Absolutely.
These little pockets of your life, and You know, a lot of
The
people.
only thing that I will say is we were hyper aware because we used to talk about it all the time. And obviously we met at a Candlebox concert, which was, in my opinion, one of the best bands to come out of that time.
Absolutely.
Another banger of a fucking debut album that you can't touch to this day. Just end to end perfection. I love it. But we were hyper aware of how lucky we were to be musicians with some of the greatest musicians that ever lived. The 90s was like the 60s and 70s all over again.
Sure.
It was just one badass fucking band after another that was playing from the heart and soul again, you know, and writing songs that meant something to people and right up your alley, which is why I say we talked about it a lot. We were not, it wasn't lost on us that there was something special going on, you know?
No, it wasn't. Absolutely not.
You and I are two people I can say that we talked about it then and now, and we're not saying now, oh yeah, we were so lucky to have lived then. Remember all those great bands? We knew it then.
Yeah.
Stone Temple Pilots, Alice in Chains. It's like these guys are changing history.
Yep. Mudhoney, Mother Love Bone.
Oh.
Pearl Jam, Soundgarden. The stories, and the stories that came out of Seattle, Nirvana, how they all knew each other. And how they all had these songwriting contests and shit, and they would all go back to their places, and they would
which was not that undifferent. That's not even a fucking word. Which was not that different from the music scene in Phoenix, because we were all living and dying in the desert by ourselves. You know, it's like there was nowhere else to go.
No.
So there wasn't a lot of bullshit competition. It was more like brotherhood. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We were all trying to go to the same place.
Yeah, there were some bands that were just kind of dicks, but that's just
but they weeded themselves out pretty quickly.
They did. Yeah, it's like everything else, man. If you're an ass, you're not going to last very long, whatever you do.
The only thing I'll say to Franco is if he ever listens to this, because the Mason jar will be a tag on this podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks for booking us with the skinheads.
Dude, you gotta tell the story, the Franco story about getting paid.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So the first time I never told you the electric ballroom story. So the first time I go there, there's mounds of fucking cocaine on the table. That was before Chris was in the band. So it wasn't that was the Mike Hagstrom story. So I was getting paid from that.
Okay.
Then Chris joins the band. We play for Marshall Tucker. I know those guys by that point. I just go in and get paid.
Right.
Then we start playing at the Jar, which was obviously, as we've said, a legendary place. All these people had played there. So it was a huge honor to even be accepted at 11 o'clock on a Monday night, which is normally when you got your gig, or midnight. Yeah. And there's like 5 people there. Fucking and 27 kamikazes in.
Right, but then to evolve to the point that you're opening up for national acts on Fridays and Saturdays,
which we did, absolutely.
So that's once we got in there, we took 100% full advantage of that opportunity, and
we never acted like we were anywhere but the same place we ended up.
Yes.
We played to 5 people like we played to the packed house.
Yep.
Sold out crowds, which we eventually did.
Exactly.
So the first time that we ever got the honor of playing, it might have even been a Wednesday or Thursday, but there was a national act coming through town. I don't remember who it was. It doesn't matter.
No.
But when you sold enough tickets, he was an honest business owner. If you did what he asked you to do, he would pay you. So we did what we were supposed to do, and the gig's over, and in that particular business, at the end of a gig is, not when you want to go bug the owner about money. So these are things you do the next day or the day after. It's like, that's just the way the business works. Because he's probably 9 lines of cocaine in by that time, and he doesn't want to talk to you. So I decide that in my infinite wisdom, after about a week that I had not heard from Franco, I'm going to his condo. Which is apparently where he still lives, because that's where this article was written for the New Times.
Right on.
So Franco takes this guy around his condo, and I just laughed. I'm like, I've been there. So I go walking up, knocking on the door. Fucking dude answers the door that looks like Andre the Giant. How can I help you? I'm like, is Franco here? What do you need? Like, I'm supposed to get paid for the band Nemesis. We opened up for, let's just say it was Pat Travers.
Right.
And we sold X amount of tickets, and hold on. Slams the door. Comes back to the door. He wants to know how much he owes you. It was like $212, let's say.
Right.
I'm like,
righteous bucks, dude.
212. That's a lot of money in 1993.
Yeah.
Slams the door. Franco comes with the money himself. Franco's about 5'5", maybe.
Yeah.
He's pretty fucking short. That's why he wears the clogs. It makes him about 5'5". He hands me the money and tells me that he's sorry. And next time, let him know sooner. And I said, okay. So then, I don't know, we played there, 3-4 times a month?
Yeah, we got to the point to where we had regular gigs lined up there. It may have been even more than 3 or 4 times a month.
So
it was a staple. We were a staple because then we started moving to Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays, you know.
Oh yeah.
And then we had
as our own
right
headliner. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next time that we went to play a gig, as Chris is alluding to, we were a big deal, right? For us, you know, we didn't ever act like a big deal, but the people that worked there fucking loved our band, and they treated us like royalty. He's not kidding. So,
and the one thing,
and we were cool. That had a lot to do with it.
Right, and I'm going to inject this too. We could play with anybody. Nemesis, the songs we wrote, they fit with anybody's style. We could open up for like a Marshall Tucker band or Enough's Enough 80s hair band or fucking Pat Travers, you know, or even Sacred Reich. I mean, we fucking opened for Sacred Reich. Sacred Reich is nowhere
probably
near
50 times.
Nowhere near our genre of music, but because we had enough variety of elements in our music, because we could be heavy, we could be dark, we could be happy, we could be fun. The way the songs were written, the lyrically they were written, how the songs were structured from a music standpoint, we could blend with anyone. We couldn't be put in a box. You couldn't just be like, oh, this is Timpy Candy ass pop rock, because it wasn't. We were Creed before Creed was Creed, because that's the only way to explain it. That's how we wrote. That's how our music came across. It was real. It was raw.
It had a groove.
It had a groove. Every song had a hook. I can still just bust off our songs because even though I wrote them, they still have such a catchy tune
flow
to them and a melody. Yeah, it's just so because of that, we could play with anybody. It didn't matter. We were never put in a box, and I think that helped us grow as a band locally because, like you said, we were cool, we were humble, we weren't assholes, we were grateful for the opportunity. We treated it as such every time we stepped into the bars and played, but we had the ability to play with anybody. And more times than not, be at their level, if not kind of nudge them like, you better come out and do a good job tonight. Otherwise, we're going to take your spot next week. Because that was the mentality.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. So we go back and we've established a relationship, as I've alluded to. And the guy there were two, I can't remember the Mexican guy's name that ran the bouncer. His name might have been Mike too.
Maverick. There was a Maverick.
No, Maverick was the tall dude with the fucking badass mullet.
That's right. Okay.
He's who I talked to, but I really like the Mexican guy that ran security there too.
Gotcha.
I got tight with him. Come to find out, he was an original member of the Dirty Dozen, which I think turned into a chapter or turned into the Hell's Angels. I don't know my motorcycle club, but anyway, they were one of the OG motorcycle gangs.
Nice.
So Maverick was there that night, and I'm telling him the story. I'm like, yeah, fuck, I had to chase Franco down to get my money. It's fucking, if somebody's jaw could do something other than figuratively hit the floor, his jaw hit the floor.
Yeah.
He's like, you did what? I said, yeah, I had fucking chased Franco down for our money for the band, man. I said, and pay us for that fucking Pat Travers gig. He's like, Mike, don't ever do that again. Don't ever go there again. He's like, do you know who Franco is? I have no idea. He's like, Gagliano. Have you ever heard him talk? The motherfucker's from Sicily. Like, everyone from Sicily is connected. Don't ever go ask him. I'm like, but he was real nice. He's like, yeah, I'm sure he was. First time. It's like, I wouldn't make it a second time. He says, if you need to get paid, you talk to me. We'll work it out. Me or Jason, we'll intervene for you. He's like, don't go to his apartment. I said, yeah, some dude answered the door. He was like 6'7", about 340 pounds.
Right.
But he was real nice.
Yeah, Andre the Giant answers the door.
And he doesn't say hello. He says, what do you need?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. That's because,
I still look like me.
Right.
Little.
You just had long hair. That is the difference.
I did have long hair. Thank you for proving that to all the people that only know me as a bald guy here.
Yeah, no, Mike had long hair.
Thank you.
Yeah, we would and my head was shaved, so there's times when we would lean. I'd find him on stage and I'd lean on him while I'm singing, so our backs are like this, right? And we're holding each other up, and then I pull away and it's like, what the fuck, man? There's fucking hair in my head, because I have hair, but by the end of the day, by the time the show goes on, it's kind of like sandpapery. So I would step away from Mike and there'd be strands of his hair stuck to my head. Like, what the fuck, man?
Pulled him right off my fucking head. Just like he smoked my joint right off my guitar.
Yeah, that's a funny story too. So those that haven't heard that, we're at the ballroom. We're playing for somebody. We're on the big stage this time. And I have my little nervous energy before the show.
It was a Fender showcase show, I think.
Yeah, probably. And so we're behind the curtain. And I'm pacing because I just always would pace before a show. Nervous energy, anxiety, whatever. And I didn't really smoke, but every now and then I'd take a hit of Mike's Marlboro Lights. He would smoke just to kind of, bring it down a notch. So he had it sitting up in this fret, and I grabbed it, and just like I did probably 100 times before, he was always cool with it. The first time I did, I was like, "You care for doing it?" I'm like, "No, dude, you're cool. You're my brother." So grabbed it, put it back, and held it for a sec, like you do when you smoke, and then, and then I don't know, halfway through the first song, it's like all of a sudden it's like, "Fuck, dude." Like I can feel the music more than I felt the music in a while. And then we're going to the next song. We were that band that we would play 2 or 3 songs without really saying to the crowd. We just boom, 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 like in your face, motherfuckers, here you go. And
One song led right into the next.
Right. And then I would introduce us and we'd talk a little bit to the crowd and engage and shit. And I was like, I'm thinking in my head, like I only had a shot. I always had a shot of Jaeger and a beer, like, right? And I'm like, there's no way that got me all loopy, man. I had that like an hour ago. I'm trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Like where is this? And then so the next day we're at practice. Like we do the show and nobody says anything because I don't think Mike knew what to say. So the next day at practice, after a show we'd go practice and we would talk about the show and things like that, and then we'd gear up and go rehearse again. And Mike's like, so I started talking about how I felt weird, like I didn't get it, and so Mike's like, well,
there's this dude that lives about 3 doors down from me that's got a cigarette rolling machine. And for you kids at home that have only ever known marijuana to be legal, it used to not be.
Right.
So my drummer and I, in our infinite wisdom, were always trying to find a way to smoke pot while we were on stage. We never did it until that night, just so you know, because it was highly illegal.
Right.
And this crazy fuck, I said, I wonder if you could roll that cigarette into a joint. And that kid wanted to be part of our crowd so bad. He's like, well, I could try.
Yeah.
And he did. It totally wrecked his fucking cigarette rolling machine because for those of you that don't know, marijuana is very sticky.
Yeah.
And there was no tobacco in there. So Chris was basically hitting a monster-sized fucking joint because it was as big as a cigarette. Yeah. And Scott and I were to share that during the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Mike looked at me, and because I pulled it off, and he gave me a look he'd never given me before, but I didn't think anything of it because of my nervous
Then I looked at Scott, and he shrugged while he was playing. He was like, what are you going to do, It's done now. He's already inhaled. Yeah. That's what he told me later on. I said, what were you thinking when I looked at you and you shrugged? He said, I thought, what the fuck are you going to do now? You already inhaled.
The nice thing is it didn't affect the show at all.
No, you always told me that was one of the best shows you thought you ever.
Yeah.
And it probably was because that little hit for people that don't know, and I won't bore everybody, but
Right.
for those of you that don't know, marijuana, if you've never smoked it, doesn't do to you what you think it does to you. It actually enhances who you already are.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you smoke too much of it, yes, you will.
Sure.
If you abuse anything, it's bad. But if
Right,
you
right.
do what Chris did, if you just took and you held it in, and you would
like
be
you're smoking a cigarette, like
Yep.
legit. Not like you see on TV today where they go, that's not inhaling. You fucking grab the smoke, you inhale it. Then you can say 2 or 3 words. There's no smoke. That's how you inhale a cigarette, and then you push it out. Right. That's
like
what it is.
this.
Right,
So now
exactly.
and then
There you
push
go.
it out. Yeah.
There you go. So that was that.
But yeah, I remember you telling me you thought that was.
Yeah.
You're like, man, I was just on fire, and you were.
Yeah. Because you just feel it, man.
What have I said? Do you like singing? Yes.
Yeah.
It's better if you're high.
Yeah.
Do you like sex? Yes. It's
Yeah.
better if you're high. Do you like food? Yes.
Yeah.
It's better if you're high. It just is.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm not advocating people go
No.
fucking start doing it, but if you were going to anyway, I'm here to tell you that's one thing that will not hurt you.
Yeah.
Alcohol is 114 times more dangerous than marijuana for those of you that are listening.
Absolutely.
And there's a fucking liquor store on every corner.
Yep. Every corner. Every single corner. And
You can buy enough booze to kill yourself in there. You
can.
cannot smoke enough. No one's ever died from smoking marijuana, ever.
No. Nope. Nope.
You can't.
Not a single person.
You smoke yourself straight.
You can get fat.
Yeah, the only
Lazy. You can get
I
fat
would-
and lazy.
there's 2 jokes I like. The only thing that is in danger of someone who gets stoned is McDonald's. Or the refrigerator or the cabinet. It's an old joke.
Yeah.
And 5 guys who get drunk will start a fight, and 5 guys who get stoned will start a band. That's my other favorite joke.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true though. Yeah.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier, man, that camaraderie of sitting in a circle.
Yeah.
How many times did we sit outside while Scott and I were
All the
smoking
time. Every
and
practice.
just fucking talk?
Yeah, every practice. Every single practice because we would take breaks. Every
Hey,
single
man,
practice. Yep.
wonder if we'll ever make it to Mars, or
Yep. Every single that was the cool thing about that I never really had with the other bands I was in subsequently. There wasn't that. There just wasn't that. The way that we connected was so kismet, right? Because
For sure. Great word.
that we were meant to.
Yes.
We were meant to. You were meant to be at the show. I was meant to be at the show.
It was like we always knew each other from
right.
the word go.
Exactly. It was never awkward. It was never.
No, there was no grow-in phase at all.
Nothing.
It was
just,
literally you and I and Scott were drinking beers at the bar, and we went, hey, we're fucking feeling good. Let's go jam.
Yeah, and that was 2-3 days later, if that, and then it just
No, we went that day.
Oh, did we? Okay.
Yeah, Scott was like, "This motherfucker's cool, man. Let's go
I
jam."
mean after the Candlebox show.
Oh yeah, that was like 2 days.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I was like, "We're not letting this guy go, man. He's too cool."
Yeah.
I knew it would be great. It just was.
No, but we had that thing where when I'd get to practice, you guys had warmed up, so then you were outside smoking. So
Yeah.
then we would sit there and bullshit for a little bit, and then I'd be like, then we'd all go back in and jam for a little bit, and then Carrie would be like, I need a break. And then, because Scott's little kids and Carrie were in the same house. So then we
And those kids love music to this day, brother.
Oh, yeah. So we'd go outside so she could, feed them or bathtubs, whatever. And we'd bullshit for a little bit longer. And then we'd go back in and bust out another hour worth of stuff and call it a day. But there was always that. There was always that connection and talking. And even if it wasn't about music, it was just about life and what we did that day. And what, it was cool.
Those are the conversations I miss more than anything. I mean, we talked music. That was a given. I mean, fuck, we're in a band.
Yeah.
We had some deep conversations about where we were going as people and humanity and, what our part was in it, writing music. And
Sure.
If people want to know how deep these conversations got, we would talk about whether the message we were sending out there was the message that we wanted to,
Right.
and there were times that Chris had to defend his position.
Scott hated that I used "goddamn" in a song. Like, fucking hated it. And
I would always come to your defense and say two
yeah,
things:
yeah,
free will
Yep.
and freedom of speech.
yep,
Right? And listen to the context
Right.
in that was the big selling point for Scott.
yeah,
And I don't pat myself on the back for being smart on any level. I always tell people I'm fucking super smart, but that's just being facetious. And, I'm as smart as I am, and
you're pretty damn smart though.
I always try and be a better person every day, but for some reason, Scott respected me on a level where he didn't put me on a pedestal, but he always looked up to me for some reason. And I looked up to him and I looked up to you the same way. It was that mutual admiration. But
absolutely,
the way that I would sell him on it ultimately is to make him see the context in which you were using the lyric. Right? Nothing Man.
Right.
The fucking guy literally is the title of the song. Mm-hmm. He's got nothing left. No. Yep. He doesn't care.
Nope.
He doesn't give a fuck what society thinks.
Nope.
He's done.
Yep.
He's falling down. He's Michael Douglas and falling down. I'm fucking done with all of you and all this nonsense.
All the bullshit.
And when I portrayed it to him like that, he's like, "Oh, I guess you got a point." Well, no, he's got a point.
Yeah.
It's his character. It's a character in a song, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you believe that. That's part of.
But everything I wrote, there was belief in it. So those were little synopsis of my personality. Everything I wrote there was always part of me in that person. Whatever the song was about, there was an element of truth in there, which is why I think it made our songs appealing to people that listen to it. And
absolutely.
And I like.
There's a personal connection.
Right. Like it wasn't. I didn't fake anything I wrote. Everything I wrote ties back to me at some point in time in my life for whatever that song is about. Like we could post out the lyrics right now and I could tell you exactly, which I won't do because I don't like how people change. It changes perception. Like Draymond came out from Disturbed and talking about the sickness, right? And how that entire middle section where he's fucking screaming at his mother for beating him. You know what I'm talking about? Said that's bullshit. He said that's not about mother abusing him. That's about society. Like, motherfucker, you just run that song for millions of people. Millions.
Right.
Like you don't take, because you know what the interpretation was. That's what pissed me
Absolutely.
off. Like he knows what that's interpreted as. You don't come out and say, "Oh, guess what? That's about society. It's not about my mom beating me." Fuck you, dude. Because you just changed. For me, I don't like that song now. Because it changed what it meant. Because I have personal ties to that. Because I lived that shit. So,
but it can still mean that to you.
Yeah, but it takes it away now. Because
I don't disagree with you at all. I always like the fact that you left your lyrics open to interpretation for anyone.
Anyone, because it's up to them.
So much so that you wrote a song about tripping that I thought you had major fucking. This dude's tripped a lot.
Right.
Never and I didn't find out till the podcast. Chris was like, "No, I never did it once, dude. Not once."
But I worked in a field where psychotropic drugs were handed out daily, and that's kind of how
you saw the result of.
I saw it. So, but that's the thing. It's leaving things open to interpretation. Make it so that song can be loved by anyone.
Yeah.
If you put it in a box, then you're putting it in a box, and all of a sudden, whoa, that's not about child abuse. Oh, okay. Like I just when I saw
couldn't agree with you more on this.
When I saw him telling that story, I'm like, you fucking asshole, Dave. And I commented on it, like, you just fucking ruined the song, Draymond, for millions of people, man. You just ruined it, like, motherfucker. Stop it. Don't do that. Like, don't do that.
Don't do that. Do better.
Because you just don't. That's kind of like if Aaron Lewis comes out and talks about it's been a while and tells you what it's truly about. Because what I think it's about.
He had to give up Twinkies.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It's been a while.
It's right, but that's the thing. Like you never know what it's
since I had that cream filled filling.
Yes, and that's my point. So don't ruin it by telling people what it's truly about, because it just some things you have to defend. Like Ozzy had to defend Suicide Solution because
they took him to fucking court.
Right, but and Dee Schneider decided to be the advocate for family, which just completely ruined Twisted Sister at the time and the stereotype and his image, because he's sitting there in Congress. I'm a God-fearing Christian, ma'am. But
I dress like a woman at night.
Right. And it's like, wait a minute. You're a God-fearing Christian. You're the lead singer of Twisted Sister. You look like fucking shit, like absolute shit. The makeup and stuff, like you turn yourself into the ugliest human being on the planet. And you're
They have
singing
some good
songs
fucking
like,
songs, though.
oh, they do. They have.
You can't stop. Before they started wearing the makeup, and don't get me wrong, I liked the Stay Hungry album. I was right there. I was like 10 years old.
That's
12.
a good album. That's a good album. Yeah.
But the album before that, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
That's when they were actually just a true blue jeans and fucking.
Yeah.
They weren't wearing makeup back then.
They needed the gimmick to get where they were going. Some people needed gimmicks.
I like that album though. Go back and listen to just the song "You Can't Stop Rock and Roll."
Oh, I have. That's
You'll
a good song.
Crank it up in your fucking.
but
you gotta listen to it again.
Okay, I will.
Just for me.
I will. I'll listen again just for you. All right, that's a good place to wrap up. You can't stop rock and roll, boys and girls.
That's right.
Mike show.
Don't even try, because I'm gonna keep playing it.
Right. Our next episode. Right. And just so you know, our next episode, we're supposed to have a special guest who is an independent filmmaker for 9 years. He trained as a professional wrestler for a couple of years. Let me pull it up so I get it all right.
Looking forward to that, man. It sounds awesome.
He sounds like a cool dude. His name's Wade Simmons.
Okay.
He where'd it go? He's in Illinois too, by the way. Wait a minute. Yeah? No, where's he at? Oh yeah, he's in Illinois too. Yeah, Wade Simmons is in Illinois.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We're neighbors.
So, fuck, where is it, man? Where the fuck did he tell me this stuff? Okay, okay, I'm sorry. It was in the first, as an intro paragraph. He's like, I'm an independent filmmaker for almost 9 years. He also trained for pro wrestling for about 2 years, and he's been in the funeral business for 15. So
should be interesting.
Mike and I love movies. Right? Oh, yeah. I'm not a big wrestling fan, but it's part of.
I was when I was a kid.
There you go. Yeah,
Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
Fuck
yeah. I'm in there with you in that.
Andre the Giant. Fuck yeah.
And then funeral business is cool just for the simple fact that we have a weird fascination with serial killers and shit like that. So So yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of stories he has to tell about all three of those events in his love of his life resume, I like to call it, because that's three separate, really.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Two truly departures. So
a good dichotomy of businesses.
Yes, good word. So hopefully he comes through on Friday, and we sit down and talk to him for an hour or so, and share his journey with the world as well. So
awesome.
With that being said, don't let the bad days win. Tomorrow's always a better day.
Somebody loves you out there.
Somebody loves you. Somebody will miss you. If you need help, reach out, call friends. Hey, call Mike and I. We're here. We're available.
You got it.
There you go. Another one of the books, man. Love you, brother.
We did it. Love you too, man.
All right, man.
That was fun.
Great day. Yeah, you too. We're gonna go running. It's on the second hottest day of the year so far. We're gonna go running.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Peace.
It's funny that
We're gonna fly